What's up, my little pretties? It's your mistress, the Queen of Lions here, and today we're here for another discussion video. And today, you guys probably see the title. It's called, my thoughts on bad stories, or I could definitely say, right here, right now, is my thoughts are on not good stories. Now, I'm just gonna. It's kind of like an explanation, but kind of like a kind of like an explanation or at least a discussion video per se. Because I'm really saying right now that this one actually was just actually going to be released, today, but I decided, why not just do a video on it, and it would be understandable, but not only that, it would just be more, I guess, self-explanatory, we could just say. So, my thoughts on bad stories, I'm going to be completely and utterly honest that this is not meant to offend anybody. This is only, not only just, my opinion, but for everybody's opinion as well. So, with that being said, I am going to go ahead and explain about this topic. So, okay. I'm just going to warn you guys now that this is not meant to be taken seriously or anything. This is just only my opinion and, my final thoughts and stuff like that. Just to kind of like clear everybody's heads. Now, a lot of people are probably asking, have you read any written bad stories before? I know some people have asked me about this. And I am going to be completely honest when it comes to that, because some people really want, an explanation, so to speak. Kind of explaining, why, some of my stories, or some of anybody's stories for that matter, doesn't turn out to be good. And, there is actually a very good reason why, certain stories are not as good as they should be, or they're just completely insane or anything like that. But you know what? I'm going to explain, my thoughts on bad stories. Now, I'm going to say right now, we've all written bad stories in the past. I used to write terrible stories. I'm not even joking. I've written terrible stories in the past too. And I'm being completely and utterly honest because, to be honest about all this, I'm actually just surprised that, I'm actually, doing my official job, sitting there and, doing my usual thing. When it comes to certain stories, I'm definitely being completely honest, but you know what? I'm just gonna sit there and, explain, the thoughts and the facts about this particular stories and alike. Now, I'm definitely gonna be honest right now that the stories I have done in the past just wasn't really good. And I am going to explain. We all have bad startups when it comes to writing stories. And I'm just going to be completely and utterly honest right here, right now, when I say this, but nobody is perfect. I kind of make that loud and clear for, a couple of other videos. But you know what? This is just, that. It's just that I've really been completely honest is that, not everyone is good at something. But people can strive and prove better to make sure that they do pretty well when it comes to making these kind of stories. And if it's creepypastas, fan fictions, or whatever, I'm going to be completely honest that not everybody sucks at something. I'm being completely honest. Anybody can make a good story if they want to choose to write good stories. So before I get to why I'm making this video, I'm going to explain, the facts of this story, just to kind of explain a little bit more detail for some people. If you're going to write a story, which, let's be honest, you gotta understand, the flaws that could affect your writing, the flaws that can affect your, your ability, motivation, or anything. Because, people nowadays are not putting any time and effort in the stories. Like on Goshia, I've actually seen a whole crap ton of stories that are not good. Now, with the sole exception of a few people, stories now on, Goshia, that's another site, by the way, is just not good. I honestly really don't know what it is, but stories nowadays is just not that great. And that's kind of one of the reasons why everyone's not, putting any time and effort into stories is because they keep putting the same cliches or that. So I could definitely say right now that, this is just a problem, especially for people who are new to stories because they just say, "Oh, is that how I'm supposed to do it?" Well, and then they just go ahead and they repeat the same mistakes. Now, I could definitely say some cliches can work with stories. Some cliches can work with certain stories as long as there's like a good concept or if the person makes it work somehow. How that actually is one of the reasons why I actually really don't like seeing Go Shiowiki that much is because of what it's become nowadays. I'm really not sure or right now why stories nowadays just have to contain bad grammar or something. But even if it's the author's very first story or anything like that, they need to have a few pointers and stuff here and there. Now, before I get to the main reason why I'm making this video, well, I kind of explained it's just so I want to see people improve on their writing as, everything goes by. Now, every time I write a story, I, think about, I take a look at it and realize, what story it is, why I absolutely don't like it, and how I could do to improve better on my stories. That's actually one of the reasons why I'm making, I have this channel. It's the reason why I'm, doing the things I'm doing. Like, just so that way people can understand, why I absolutely, want this, concept of, pastas, to be better. Now, I could definitely say, now I'm going to begin with the number one explanation about why I despise the Go Shiowiki. With a full exception on some people who do put time and effort in their stories, like with good grammar and stuff, and at least try to avoid to little or no cliches at all. With a few exception of a few people, I'm definitely gonna say right now that the stories itself is just not that great. That's just the main reason. That's the main reason why I don't read stories from the Go Shiowiki is because nobody is willing to put time and effort into the story reads anymore. But I'm gonna say this right now, and I am gonna say this again. If you're gonna write a story, there's lots of tutorials on, no on like YouTube and other stuff. So then that way you guys can understand what you should and shouldn't do when it comes to writing stories. Now, anybody can write a story if that's what they want to do. Writing, I consider it to be a hobby. Even though I do write bad stories occasionally or sometimes, but I strive to make myself better and improve as I go on. As I go on with, what I have to do, I strive to become better and improve on my writing skills. This is a big thing if you're going to write, something like an essay or something like that. You always need to put time and effort when it comes to writing at all. Anything for that matter. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be, a story, it could be an essay, a resume, anything. But here's the thing. People nowadays, when you write stories now and then, it's just not really that good. And, to be completely honest, I think I did address this in a few videos, but to be completely honest, I have written bad stories in the past, and I still do every now and then, but at least I learn from what my mistakes were, and I strive to become better and improve better on my writing. Now, I'm gonna say right now, there are some creepypasta narrators and, fanfiction readers have, put their time and effort into the stories. Of course, they do listen to criticism when it comes to, sending it to other people, seeing what they think. If you want to get better with your stories, the best thing you could do is send it to people you know, listen to criticism, figure out what was actually the problem with the story, if there are problems with a certain story, depending on the topic, although there are a few sole exceptions, and strive to work on improving better. Now, if grammar is like you're struggling, the best thing you could do with grammar is, you could use a dictionary, any dictionaries you have. You could use Google Docs, because Google Docs, in my opinion, people, can really help, spot the grammatical errors in that, and, help you become better when it comes to, writing. If sentence structuring or punctuation is your struggle, well, Google Docs can help you at that. And you could even strive yourself to figure out which punctuation goes, what's the proper punctuation, and how it works and flows well. Because here's the thing. I'm going to say this right now. I do have fanfiction.net. I don't use it anymore because, well, let's just say some trolls were harassing me. I'm not saying who did, because this was back before I even have, the Queen of Lions channel or Shadow Lioness channel. And, my stories on there are terrible. What I mean by terrible is there is, like, well, grammar being, absolutely horrid, riddled with, run-on sentences, no honest storytelling, no proper punctuation, and just repeating the same thing over and over and over again. That's actually one of the reasons why you've never seen, any of my old stories from fanfiction.net. I was called another account, so yeah. And to be completely honest, I'm not happy with all the stories I did in the past, because, that was past me when I didn't understand any of the proper punctuation in that. Although some people did give me some tips there, here and there, but I struggled a lot when I post those stories. I was struggling because, well, of what was going on and how, everything turned out. Mainly the reason is, why my stories occasionally might not be very good is because it's either repeating the same thing that my other stories did, or they just don't have any time and effort. If you're going to write a story, and this is a very good thing for anybody who's going to write stories, fan fictions, pastas, or whatever, the best thing you could do is put it through Google Docs or something, and that can help you, determine where's the wrong punctuation, how, could it sound better, and stuff like that. You can't sit there and, just hope everybody's going to, edit your work for you all the time because you don't want to. That's just really lazy. I'm not saying you all guys do it, because none of you guys do, and I'm glad none of you guys don't act like that or sit there and act like that, because, to be completely honest, to the people who want to become better at writing, they can do it. I believe that they can all do it, as long as they put their time and effort into the story, and they end up striving to become better. Take a look at a lot of other pastas that I have done. Take a look at, my friends' pastas like the Shadow Reader and stuff like that. They have struggled a bit at times, and, they've had weaknesses here and there, but they strive to become better. And that's the main positive that I can definitely say, is that people struggle at times depending on the situation or something. And, people can improve themselves on better with their writing. Like, for example, if they, struggle with, remembering certain characters or something. That's actually something really easy for me to do, because I know which characters do what. And, to be completely honest, sometimes I'm not proud with all the fanfiction that I've written. Now, on fanfiction.net, I am considering of starting over, but I'm not 100% sure yet, though. I don't even know if I should or not, but, I know that's kind of off topic, but, that was another video I did. But I'm going to say right here, right now, if you improve on your writing by doing better as you go, you will eventually get better at writing certain stories. That's why when I write certain stories, I strive to become better, and I even put my hard work into certain stories. Because, nowadays I either can't find a good story that I want to narrate, or the story is filled with bad grammar, cliches, and etc. That's actually one of the reasons why, some of these stories nowadays, they're just not good. And I'm just being completely honest. With the sole exception of a few people that do put time and effort, the stories just don't look as great as I was hoping they would. That's actually the big problem when it comes to writing stories. Now, what's another thing I could definitely say? Well, another good reason why some stories are not as good as they should be is either the people, who write stories lose interest in it, and they just feel like they want to rush to finish it so they can move on to other projects. I know that feeling can be really bearing, not unbearable at times, because I've lost interest in, certain stories, and I just rush because I want to get it over and done with. Yeah, that's happened to me before. It's happened with the Aladdin curry pasta. While before I sent it to Shadow, I was trying to make it as good as I can, but then I lost interest in the story, and that's what caused me to rush, everything about that story just to make it done because, I just wanted to get over and done with. Now, one of them being, Jafar doing all the things to Jasmine. Not gonna say them because if you guys heard Shadow's narration, I think last year, and my narration last year, the Aladdin story, I will admit it was not good, and I will admit that. But you know what? That's because I was rushing because I wanted to get it over and done with, and because I was losing interest in the story. That was the reason why I just rushed it just to get it done. That's actually why it's not looking as good as I was hoping. Because I did not, want it to end up that way, but it did because I didn't really wanted, I just didn't want to lose interest in it that quickly and forever abandon it. That's actually one of the reasons why, sometimes some people, lose interest in certain stories that they just rush just to try to complete it and, get it done. Now, take this for a grain of salt is that, Shadow Reader even has done that with Patrick's Diabetes Part 3. Now, I'm glad to say right now that he uploaded part 1, and I cannot wait to see him, upload, part 2 and part 3. But in part 3, the ending just wasn't really that great, is what Shadow admitted it. Because it just involved, Patrick becoming a zombie and all that, although that was not Shadow's intention to do that. But it ended up looking like that, because he lost interest in the story and just wanted to get it finished. That has happened to me. It's happened to maybe a few people that I do know. And with that being said, if you struggle with, losing interest in the story, make a certain goals on what you want to do to make your story better. Now, if you send your story to somebody, make sure, they are being completely and utterly honest with their opinion on the story, even if it's not good. Make sure that they are open-minded with their opinion. Like the Aladdin story, Shadow Reader didn't like it because it had so many flaws. And you know what? That was not my intention on making it to make it have that many flaws. But I did that, and it ended up coming like that because I just lost interest in the story. And, I'm being completely and utterly honest with that. That can happen with some people. Some people probably just lose interest in the story and they just rush to try to get it finished because they just don't want to, have it sit there as, dead weight at this point. If you lose interest in the story, people, you could always just put it, as the get to later list. That way you would have, more time and, put more effort into the story than rather sit there and just, make it seem like so crap that, nobody would like it. That's actually one of the reasons why my sometimes my stories might turn out not to be good. And just take a look at the Aladdin one, take a look at the Shadow's diarrhea story, take a look at some of my other stories. Some of them that end up not being good, that was not my intention on doing all that, but I just lost interest in the story. And I've learned from those mistakes, and I'm striving not to repeat them too many times. It is hard for me to repeat, certain stories that have been done before because, one of them being I lost interest or I just didn't really know what to write. If you put your hard mind into it and brainstorm some ideas of what you want to happen, you can make that story good. Now, some people have rewritten certain stories, which that's understandable. I can definitely and utterly see that being the case. But I am going to say this right now. If you do struggle with stuff when it comes to writing good or bad stories, make them as a goal to, make your goals to make sure that your story will end up being a lot better than what you were expecting it. So, with that being said, this video is like 20 minutes long. And it's like almost 2 in the morning is where I'm recording this. Okay. So, that's another thing I want to say. Now, I know some people can't take criticism, but they have to eventually. Not trying to say who doesn't or anything like that, because that's not the video for it. I'm going to say right now, if you want people to have their opinions on a certain story, even if it's bad, I'm going to be honest, send them to certain people you know, help them look at it, and they can tell you your thoughts. Now, I've listened to criticism, and at first I couldn't really take it. I didn't, attack anybody or anything like that. I just didn't even want to bother with the video. And that has happened. I'm going to be completely honest. It's happened to me a few times actually. But you know what? I'm striving to become better at these pastas or fan fictions and other stories. I'm striving to become a lot better. I'm not sitting there, just, rushing it. Well, that does happen sometimes, but still. Now, I have written a few bad stories that some of my friends have read, and when one of them didn't like it, he kind of explained to me what I could have done to make the story better, what were the flaws with the story, even though that was not my attempt to make it like that. But it ended up coming out like that. And the reason why it does come out like that at times is because I either lose interest in the story and I just want to, I want to get this over and done with because, it's just sitting there. If I lost interest in the story, I would just leave it alone for a while and then just come back to it whenever I can. Or if I am not going to bother with that story anymore, I just don't even bother with it again. That's the main reason why, some stories I say I want to make this come out or this story, happen and I never get to it. It's either the fact that I lost interest in it or I just don't have the motivation to write it. That's the main reason why, I just, want to get to certain stories, of mine that I want to write, but never did. Because one of them being I'm really busy in my life. And another thing too is that, sometimes I lose motivation when it comes to writing stories. Now I know that's happened to some people. And I'm going to be honest, that has happened to some people too. I'm not going to deny that. But the best thing you could do for any of you guys if you're going to write a story is to listen to criticism, make your goals on what you struggle with most and strive to become better, and even then practice doing what you do in a story, because then that way your story would be a lot better. But not only that, you can improve on the things that you did. Now, if you struggle with, repetitive plot lines, maybe you could put that as a goal to try not to repeat certain stuff. And if there are flaws in somebody's story, then just explain them how you feel and what's understandable and what the author needs to improve. That's why I'm sitting there reviewing certain stories, so then that way people can understand what their struggle was, what the flaws of the story were, and they can strive to become better by practice. If you're going to write a story, write it on Google Docs, because Google Docs can really help you, fix, grammatical errors, punctuation errors, sentence structure errors, everything like that. They can help you with that. And even listen to some criticism from, certain people that you give stories to. Now, sometimes they can be harsh, which I am not going to deny that. I have been harsh here and there too. But I'm trying not to be as harsh as I can. Now, be critical about your reasoning if you don't like a certain part in the story or what was the problem with it. And just explain the author what could this story have done to make it better and how they could execute it more. Because then that way the story would be a lot more better, in my opinion. But not only that, the story would become more understandable and more easier for those who are new to stories. Okay, I think this video is long as enough as it is, but here's the thing. I know I've made a few videos of explaining, how to do this or something. I think write fan fictions or something like that. If you guys want to check it out, somewhere back, I think earlier this year, feel free to do so. So with that, my little pretties being said, take my advice with a grain of salt and do this. Work on goals that you struggle with most and make them as a goal to make them better. Listen to criticism with your stories. If you're reading someone else's story, be honest with your opinion. If there's some points that you would like them to get better at, let them know and they will take it as understandable. And another thing, and I'm going to be honest, do not attack people over, a certain story. Because one, that causes, drama and stuff like that. And, it's just going to go all over the place. We're just going to put it that. So, with that being said, my little pretties, take what I have to say and, strive to become better when it comes to your writing. And with that being said, I'm going to wrap up the video now because it's like almost a half an hour long. But, just take what I have to say and strive to become better if you're going to do writing. Because I know you all can do good at writing if you put your hard time and effort into it and even put your mind to it, your stories could become better. So with that being said, my little pretties, I will be, I guess I'll be catching you all in the next video. And what do you guys think? Do you think this is more, that's not the word I was looking for. Was this more, understandable? Did this help you, provide you, ways what you can do and stuff? And yeah, with that being said, my little pretties, I'll be catching you all in the next video. So peace out and roll the outro, 'cause I'm out.